First of all, there was Eddie Hill, the Texan, the Pennzoil car, the Thrill. Eddie blew a car over here a few years ago, didn't want to do it again. The wheels in the air, and he drops them down, saves the car. Nice job, Eddie. Now, we could have turned out the lights for Mike Dunn's qualifying run in the Mopar car because he brought his own with him. That looked frightfully expensive. And how about a twofer? The far lane is Doug Colletta, near lane Corey Mack. Doug does a great job of trying to save the run, but does eventually save the car, and Corey Mack had his Hemi hiccup just behind him. Okay, now, how did these cars qualify for this event? How were they locked in? For more on that system, here's Dave Reith.
Well, Steve, before I tell you how they're locked in, let me steal a line out of Bob Fry's playbook here. Chamber of Commerce weather at Pomona Raceway. It's been that way all day long for the Grade 8, the 8 drivers that are locked into today's 14th annual Big Bud Shootout. How do they get their qualifying points based on the last 21 national events? If you're the #1 qualified car, you get 185 points. It drops down in increments of 10 to 4th place. From there, it drops by 5 until the 16th qualified car gets 85 points. Total up 21 races. The Grade 8 are locked in for what? Big Bud bucks. What else? 100 grand going to the winner, 15 grand to the runner-up. Total up the rest of the positions and the bonuses, $235,000, Bob, and that's not exactly chump change in the Wall Street Journal, although the winner can certainly use that for some investing advice.
$100,000 and bragging rights, and these teams love to leave Pomona being able to tell the other guys that we had the baddest hot rod on the block. Not you. Let's take a look at the ladder. There are no gimmies in round 1 of the Big Bud Shootout. It's Selzy and Dixon, a rematch of last year's final. Dunn and Hill, 2 drivers that desperately want to win a race. Amato and Doug Colletta, the rookie, having a great year, and Corey Mack and Kenny Bernstein. That's the way they'll line up. Let's meet these 8 drivers. In the 8th spot, Larry Dixon, appearing in his 4th shootout. Larry was last year's runner-up and won in '95, his rookie year.
It's not easy to win that race. I mean, there's only 8 cars involved, so it's only 3 rounds. And it seems like during race day, at one point in time, you're going to stumble and you need a lucky break. Well, one of those rounds is gone. So, I mean, you really got to have your act together every single round down the racetrack.
Slotted 7th is Doug Colletta. This is his rookie season, and he's already won a national event. And we'd like to be the 3rd in this group to win in his rookie shootout.
I'd love to win that race. You know, like you say, it's the best cars out there, and guys, any one of them are going to be tough to beat. And you know, we're going to definitely do our best to hopefully win that thing. So.
The 6th qualifier is Kenny Bernstein. This is Kenny's 9th Top Fuel Shootout, and the Bud King driver would love to leave with more Bud bread.
Well, we've been in a lot of these Bud Shootouts, obviously, through the years. We've been fortunate enough to accomplish that. But it means a lot to us, obviously, because of Budweiser being the sponsor of the Big Bud Shootout and the fact that it's our sponsor in the Budweiser King team. So we always like to take our sponsors' money. It's enjoyable to do that.
Eddie Hill has the 5th spot, and he's making his 11th appearance in perhaps his best year since '93 when he won the Winston title and was shootout runner-up.
We like the Pomona racetrack, and we have figured out the winning combination there before, and it'd be neat to do it again. Now that the car is making the power it needs, and we've been lucky enough with the clutch to run a couple of 450s and so forth, and be pretty consistent on Saturday qualifying, we've got maybe the best chance we've ever had to win this deal.
In the 4th spot is Mike Dunn, who is in his 4th shootout. He's never made a final round yet.
I've never done real good in the shootouts. I've gone to the semis a couple times, I think, and that's about it. But you know, this year we got a good car. You know, our Team Mopar dragster's been running real well. It's been capable of winning at any time, and I don't think the shootout will be any different. I think we'll be right there and have a shot at it. Once again, you know, maybe we might need a little luck in our corner, but we still got the car that can win.
Corey Mack holds the 3rd position. Now, Corey has been here often, but he's never won a Big Bud Shootout.
We've run it up there 3 times in that deal, and it's a tough deal, getting over that big hurdle and, you know, putting in a #1 spot. Just like anything else, take consistency and a good running race car. We've had both before, and then somebody jump up and just whoop us there in a final. So, you know, a lot can happen. You know, a lot of people do a lot of things, but for $100,000, do just about anything.
Joe Amato took the #2 spot. Joe has 6 wins in 14 shootouts, and that puts him just under 500. But he knows the top of the pack here is 8 deep.
On any given weekend, somebody can step up. That's, you know, #8 car could get running good this weekend and be the favorite. I mean, it really all depends on who runs good on this weekend, not who ran good all year. Because just because a guy's 7 or 8 maybe he got his car running good toward the end here, and them are the guys you have to worry about. So really, the top 8 cars, anybody can win the 100,000 from Budweiser.
Atop the field is Gary Scelzi. This is Gary's second shootout. He won it last year as a rookie and feels that this race is preparation for Sunday's elimination.
I think it's helpful. Going with the Bud shootout before eliminations kind of takes the pressure off. Kind of breaks up the monotony, and then you can worry about Sunday, you know, afterwards. So it's neat because you are racing the bad boys of the sport. You get that out of the way, and then you can concentrate on the 200,000 Winston Championship line.
Did he say monotony? Not if you ask these folks. We're going to come back and take a look at the first round of the 1998 Big Bud Shootout on TNN Motorsports. And welcome back. A little bit of trivia for you. Scelzi Dixon, Shelly Anderson, and Joe Amato all won the shootout in their rookie seasons. Nobody came back and doubled up, at least out of that Ford group. And speaking of the aforementioned Shelly Anderson, she's with us here in the tower. And Shelly, it's nice to have you here. You're not in the shootout, and that's got to be a disappointment since you did so well in this in past years.
Definitely a disappointment, but you know what? It's an exciting race. They take the 8 quickest cars all year long, and it's nice to be up here watching.
1994, pretty good year for you, huh?
Very good year for me, yeah. Came out here, set the ET record, and won the Big Bud, and I was just really excited qualifying for the race, so we were really happy. We got the 50,000 from Slick 50 for the World Record Club, and it was really nice.
Of course, winning in front of the home fans isn't too shabby either, is it?
Couldn't get any better, really.
We're going to take a look at some activities we get set for round number 1 of our Big Bud Shootout. Let's take a look at some of the head-to-head matchups as we get set for Mike Dunn and Eddie Hill. Mike Dunn, of course, with some pretty good qualifying efforts. He was number 1 right here at Pomona at the start of the year.
Eddie's been around a long time, got a lot of experience. Can't count him out. He's ran real well this year. You know, Dan Olson's done a great job of getting that car solidly in the shows everywhere, but he's been having a problem on Sunday. But the difference is we're going to be racing on Saturday, and he's been pretty bad on Saturday. I mean, he's not one I think I want to go up against, you know, for that first round Saturday. He's run some good numbers, but anybody's going to be tough. I mean, all 8 cars are pretty stout, and Eddie's going to cut us no slack, and we're going to cut him no slack.
Eddie's not only been tough on Saturday all year, but recently he has been at least a number 4 qualifier 7 of the last 13 races.
The biggest thing that worries me about running Mike Dunn in the first round, or having to run him at all, is I remember seeing him go to 4 finals in a very short period of time. And it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of savvy reading the racetrack and a real good race car to do that. So obviously I'd rather run somebody a little slower than that if I could, but you know, it falls the way it falls.
Now, let's see how the Team Mopar machine does. Darrell Gwynn owns. Mike Dunn driving against Eddie Hill and the Pennzoil Matco Tools machine. And it is a Saturday, and $100,000 up for grabs here. First pair in the Big Bud Shootout.
Well, I'm going to go with Eddie Hill to win this just because of the qualifying position at the Winston Select Finals this weekend. Eddie's 4th, but Mike's 5th, so they are the 2 closest cars. They're 4,000ths apart. I think Eddie's going to be the surprise here.
Why has Eddie had such good Saturdays and bad Sundays recently?
I just think Eddie, they don't have a lot of luck. They seem to go up against a real tough car and have problems, but they're a tough car all during qualifying. So I look to them. I mean, they had their quickest qualifying position last race, and that was a 4:57, so I look for them to win.
Let's get a comment from Steve Evans. We get set to shoot it out, Steve.
After that big engine explosion yesterday, you saw at the top of the show, Mike Dunn took the Mopar car deep into this sand trap. Now, there was no physical damage to the chassis, nothing structurally, but there was so much sand everywhere, they completely replumbed that car, replaced the fuel tank and all the fuel lines. Bob?
Very interesting matchup. 2 teams that are starving for a win, whether it's Saturday or Sunday here at Pomona. They just want to put these cars in the winner's circle. Eddie Hill out of the gate, 4. 5.60. He continues to bury him on Saturday. 315 miles an hour, 460. Dunn smoked the tires right off the starting line. Shelley, we didn't get a chance to talk about the racetrack. Tell me about it when we see Dunn do this.
Well, I don't know, as early as Dunn did it in the run, I'm kind of wondering if maybe that wasn't a clutch malfunction. He did it almost from the hit. It was before 60 foot. So he'll probably come back the last qualifying session today and run really good and be ready for tomorrow. But that's a good run from Eddie. I was over there, and that's exactly what Olson told me they'd run. It's a 460.
We have an onboard camera in Eddie Hill's car and one in your car. Is this what it's like?
Yeah, exactly. This is Mike Dunn's car, and yeah, it smoked the tires.
Wow. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack, and Steve Evans with our first winner.
Eddie Hill comes out of the cockpit and salutes the man upstairs for a nice 460 in the Saturday night special.
Oh, I love that. Well, the race is on Saturday today, isn't it? Maybe it's our day.
Great job. The racetrack, obviously, even with the sun shining on it, in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's probably not quite what it was last night, but it felt plenty good to me. She didn't feel like she did anything wrong. Thanks, boss. Thanks, Pennzoil, Matco Tools. We're having a great time.
Congratulations.
Don't forget, coming up next Sunday on TNN, you can find out who's the best in the NASCAR pits. The Union 76 World Championship Pit Crew Competition next Sunday at 1:30 Eastern right here on TNN Motorsports. More Round 1 shootout action from Pomona coming up next. Part of the capacity crowd on hand here at Pomona as we wrap up the 98 NHRA Winston season. We have got more Round 1 action from the Big Bud Shootout. Let's take a look at Corey Mack and Kenny Bernstein, our next pair coming up. Corey Mack qualified #1 twice this year at Denver and Brainerd. 13 times he was in the top 4, but he knows he's got his hands full with Big Red in the other lane.
Well, I mean, Kenny Bernstein, you know, I've kind of grew up watching him. Then when it finally came into Top Fuel, he helped me, you know, obtain a little bit of sponsorship here and there to keep the car running when I was running our own deal. But now we're looking at a whole different scenario. My ex-crew chief, Lee Beard, runs his whole show now. He's an awesome tuner. He does a great job with the car. It's going to be very consistent, as well Mike Green will do with my car. I mean, he was Beard's understudy for quite some time. Now I feel Mike Green is an equal to Lee Beard. So that's going to play a big part. There's a little bit of a rivalry there. That's going to play another part. And Kenny's an excellent driver. I've always tried to kind of style myself driving-wise after Kenny. So you look at both tune-ups and both cars and drivers, there's a lot of the same thing going on there. So both cars are equally as matched up as far as I'm concerned. So I'd have to toss a coin on that one.
Interesting scenario. Bernstein, for his part, was #1 qualifier in St. Louis, right in the backyard of the folks that are putting up the money for the Big Bud Shootout. He knows Corey won't be easy.
When you pull the line against the McDonald's car in Corey McLenithan, you've got your hands full. This is the winningest team in the past 2 years of Top Fuel Racing. They have the capability, obviously, of winning everything they go to. Mike Green is a protege of Lee Beard, my crew chief. And I actually drove that race car in Phoenix, Arizona in January during a test session, and I know there was no difference getting in that car and my car. The procedures were the same, everything was the same. So I kind of know that team's got a great package over there. Corey's a good driver. He'll be right there. He's obviously a very, very, very strong contender, and anytime he goes up there to win, we've got our hands full with either one of these guys.
The very talented Budweiser King team and the King of Speed behind the wheel. He's participated in Big Bud Shootouts for funny cars and top fuelers. Kenny Bernstein. This opening round matchup, a very tough customer that may be redundant when we talk about pairs in the Big Bud Shootout. He's got Corey Mack, and here they come.
Well, both these cars have qualified #1 twice this year, so they're really equally matched. Mike Green told me, Corey's crew chief, that he'd run about a 461, he thought, this round, and it's going to be a good race. I don't ever see, really, Lee Beard and Bernstein making mistakes.
Oh, it'll be very interesting. Let's go down to the starting line area and get a comment from Dave Reef.
Bob, interestingly enough, these guys have only raced 2 times in 1998, each picking up a win. As far as Corey McLenithan goes, they've been a little soft so far. Their best run is a 498. They are definitely concerned with Sunday, not only this round 1 matchup. As far as the Bud King goes, they've had 2 clean passes. Ask Lee Beard how he feels about this first round. He says nervous, but you got to take your best shot and push it. They've had a problem with tire smoking. They haven't done it here. They're tightening up the clutch a little at a time.
Kind of numbers are going to take to win this one, Shelley?
I think this first round you're going to look at what Eddie Hill did, the low 460 to a high 458. I kind of think maybe any quicker than that, you might have a problem smoking the tires.
It's kind of tough. You come out and run a 460 and go home in this thing.
Isn't it amazing? I'll tell you something. And they do it so easily. You know, I mean, Eddie's run was picture perfect.
And Bernstein smokes the tires. Corey Mack explodes at the top end of the racetrack. That was certainly not a picture-perfect pass. 471 for Corey. No way you figure that's good enough to advance into round 2 of the shootout. Both cars had some problems, but Corey gets the win. Let's take a look at it again. And Bernstein got a little further down track than Mike Dunn did.
Yeah, but he was in the opposite lane as Mike Dunn. So, I mean, I think the track's pretty even. It's all in the setup. Bernstein starts smoking him there and then just blows him off. Nothing you can do. You really have a hard time pedaling when it goes up that fast. Right here's where Corey really starts mixing him up. He's dropping cylinders really bad, and it's eating itself up until finally it did blow up.
The two cars, the Bud King in the right lane smokes him early, and Corey really dodged one.
Yes.
If you told me the McDonald's car's going 471 in round 1 of the shootout, I'm here to tell you it's going home. But they survive, and that's what it's all about. On board, Shelley, this has to be a wild experience for Kenny Bernstein.
I mean, do you see how fast? And he pedaled it twice, and I mean, it never recovered. There was nothing he could do.
Wow. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack, and Steve Evans.
Well, Corey Mack did a great job of getting this McDonald's car stopped because the parachute packs, as you can see, are burned off. Nice job. You dodged one there with a 71. Your guys are going to have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, though. There's a lot of money here for grabs, and we haven't really been on our game all weekend. But the car's really coming around, just makes so much power at the other end of the track, basically. Starts spinning the tire, starts hurting parts. We'll take it.
He'll take it, the 3-time runner-up in the Big Bud Shootout.
I'm not 100% sure you put that on your resume. These folks like what they've seen so far. Hill, Corey advanced, 2 down, 2 to go. Round 1 of the shootout. Hi, everybody. Some more interesting stuff you might want to know about the Big Bud Shootout. The Joe Amato benefit race here in those early days. The only year that he lost, 1986, to a guy named, don't help me, I can get it. Oh, Garlitz. That's right, Don Garlitz. We got more round 1 of the Big Bud Shootout from Pomona, California. Coming up, Bob Fry along with Dave Reef and Steve Evans. Let's take a look at another great opening round matchup. Joe Amato, big-time runner, qualified #1, Phoenix, Houston, Dallas, Route 66, Columbus. Way to go, Joe.
Doug Collette might have struggled a little bit earlier in the year to get their team together, but lately they've been running some big numbers. So, I mean, there's a hard car right now. Earlier in the year, they would have been an easy car. That's why they're #7. So anybody back there like that kind of a car is going to be a tough opponent. So we're going to have our hands full, and we'll just take them one at a time and see if we can put it together and be there about 5 o'clock when the sun goes down.
Doug Collette, his #1 qualifying effort, Sonoma. He was #1, low ET, top speed of the meet, won the race, something only one other guy's done this year, and that's Gary Scelzi.
I guess you don't try to take anybody for granted, but maybe he'll try to take us for granted a little bit if we're the 7th or 8th car, and maybe we'll get a good, good run off the starting line on him, and then the performance of the car. It'd be nice to sneak by, and I think we can.
Doug Collette, the wheelman for American International, Kitty Hawk, Connie Colette's team, and the crew chief, Ed McCullough. Very talented team. They get ready to send their rookie into battle against Joe Amato, who basically owned this thing in its formative years. It's been a while since Joe's put one in the winner's circle, but the Tenneco Automotive top fuel car with Jimmy Prock tuning as strong as any car in this class. Shelley, a lot of power here between these two cars.
Yeah, there is, and both crew chiefs told me they're planning on running a high 450 this round. Amato's qualified #1 5 times, so you know he's got it. Doug's won a race his rookie year, and they've both had great seasons.
Steve, can this racetrack handle a 450?
I think I'd like about a 461 or 2 like Eddie Hill. Let's remember, it's not unprecedented for a rookie to win the Big Bud Shootout. Gary Scelzi did it last year, and Larry Dixon did it back in 1995. Dave Reef?
Steve, I got to agree. A low 460 should win this thing. The big concern for both these crew chiefs should be the track temperature. This is the worst conditions. A great racetrack, but the worst conditions these cars have faced all weekend long. Without a question, Amato's team is struggling while Doug Colettis had a 458. He would seemingly be the guy that is going to win this thing, but as Shelly Anderson will tell you, it's very tough to back these cars down.
Amato in the Tenneco car takes on the rookie. Let's see if he can pull one of the big upsets here in round one. Good old matchup. How about that Doug Coletta? How about that Steve Evans? 461, 315 miles an hour. Amato 473, 296. Just never had enough power here, Shelley, to run down Coletta.
I'll tell you, both these cars made impressive runs. Neither one of them smoked the tires. Joe looks like he was mixing them up a little bit, dropping cylinders. Doug was straight as an arrow, a good pass, and boy, that'll win today and tomorrow.
Wow, 461. Little tip of the cap to Ed McCullough, the gang. They win this baby by about a car length. Steve?
You can see the headers on fire here. Not a big deal. Happens a lot down here. The safety safari always on hand to put them out. Sometimes I put them out with my feet. Here's Doug Coletta. He's trying to get his helmet off. And this is certainly the most money he has ever raced for in his entire life. $100,000, a former USAC National Sprint Car champion, and is setting the national record for time it takes to take a helmet off. Ed McCullough, your crew chief, gave you exactly what you needed, a 461, no more, no less.
That was a beautiful run. Man, real happy we got this thing in a winner's circle on the first round here. Just real happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
There's always a lot going on in Hazard County. If you're looking for daily helping of racing, romance, and Roscoe P. Coltrane, don't miss the Dukes of Hazzard weekdays at 5 Eastern right here on America's Country Home, TNN. Two more bigs, Selzy, Dixon, coming up next. I just love coming to Southern California. Little airport over on the left, little parking lot on the right, and a whole lot of fans right there in the middle as they get set to watch the finals in the Big Bud Shootout coming up in just a moment. One more pair, round number one. Let's see how they fared head-to-head. Gary Selzy piled up the points by qualifying well. Number one 6 times, including 5 of the last 6 races. Wow.
Can't take anybody lightly. Dale Armstrong has won 4 or 5 championships with Kenny Bernstein. He's got the Miller Lite car flying. And Big Larry B is what I call him. He's a great guy, and Larry's a good driver, too. These guys are all snakes, no pun intended, Perdome, but if you leave a crumb on the table, they're going to take it. So you can't take anybody lightly. And like I said, these are the 8 best of the best. There's no gimmies here.
Dixon is qualified well. He was number 1 at Indianapolis. Last couple of races, very well. No lower than 5th in the last 4 races to get him into the shootout.
Gary Selzy and Alan Johnson, I mean, it's a very strong package. You know, they weren't in the headlines at the beginning of the season, but they were going to the semifinals. I mean, just kind of quietly working on the points until they could work out their tune-up, and then all of a sudden around Labor Day, boy, they just came alive, and they've, you know, finished the year off strong. So it's definitely a car you got to contend with.
To me, this might be the most intriguing matchup of round one. Alan Johnson and his driver, Gary Selzy. They've already wrapped up the Winston Championship, going to take on a resurgent Larry Dixon and the Miller Lite car and crew chief, Guru. Dale Armstrong out in front. We'll talk about this with Shelley here right after they run him up into the water area.
Well, these two were the final pair in the Big Bud last year. They're meeting first round. Pretty interesting. I kind of think Alan Johnson told me he thought they'd run a 455 at 320. If he's really going for that, he might smoke the tires, and look out, Dixon will be on a good run. He was on a great run yesterday, and he had a fuel pump problem, and today I look for him to run really well.
Dave Reef, as good a matchup as we're going to see here in this first round.
I don't know. I may go out on a limb, Bob, and disagree with you. If you look at Larry Dixon's qualifying run so far, 1189, 950, not stellar numbers, not going to win you any rounds. They are definitely struggling. And Alan Johnson, as everybody knows, is definitely on his game, Steve.
Well, you look at that Team Winston car, you're talking about the quickest and fastest top fielder extra in the history of the sport. Both ends of the record, 452, 326 miles an hour. Who would bet against that, Bob?
Two former champions and the reigning champion right here in your Big Bud Shootout. You can't win the 100th thou if you don't win round number one. Who do you like, Shelley?
I kind of think, well, Gary Selzy's a favorite. Let's face it, he's the champ. But I think Dixon might surprise him.
Almost. Selzy at 468. Under 300 miles an hour. That's noteworthy in its own right. Dixon, 472, 305. He was first off the starting mark. No way, Shelley. I figure a 68 wins that pair.
I never dreamt either one of them would run like that, but you know something, it was a good race. It shows what drag racing's about. You never know. I mean, never a sure bet. Dixon left on him, like you said, but hey, that Alan Johnson horsepower came around him.
Anytime Team Winston doesn't run 300 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's a story in itself.
Yeah, and they were both dropping cylinders, you know, from about 800 foot on. That's a lot of horsepower, 700 horsepower a cylinder. But what a good race.
Dixon kind of popping and banging early, and Selzy just does hold on to get the win. Steve?
I can't remember, Bob, the last time this car, Team Winston, did not run 300 miles an hour. He had a hard time getting it off the racetrack. It was so slow.
Yeah, you know what? It quit right at about 1,100 foot, and I went ahead and shut it off. And I saw the wind light come on, and I saw Larry go right by me. I don't know what happened, but something didn't like it. It ate itself or something.
Still a nice 468.
Still a nice win, and that's what it's all about. These folks are getting set to watch the finals in the Big Bud Shootout. We got semis. Eddie Hill lane choice over Team Winston. Man, you don't hear that very often. And the other part of the Final Four, it's going to be that Doug Coletta kid taking on Corey Mack. Some primetime runners going for $100,000 here at Pomona. TNN's exclusive coverage of the 14th annual Big Bud Shootout from Pomona is brought to you by the more than 2,500 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. We've got all kinds of great racing coverage coming your way tomorrow. From the running of the Winston Finals, we will have NHRA Today tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then we come back tomorrow night with all the wrap-up at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, right here on TNN Motorsports. Couple of hours of the best drag racing coverage you'll ever see right here. Let's go down to the pit area, get some updates on what's happening here at the Shootout.
Now, after a little problem in the first round, they still won. You'd think that Team Winston, Alan Johnson, car owner, crew chief would be a little bit intenser in the trailer. Not exactly. Daughter Melanie on his lap, having fun. What does the computer tell you?
It tells me it was a little lazy down low, and thus it tried to make it too strong of a move at half track and spun the tires, put a cylinder out, and burned it up.
You got Eddie Hill next round. What do you think?
Melanie's going to get her tuned up, so I think we'll be all right.
Double trouble. Dave Reef is with Eddie Hill.
Steve, when Eddie Hill climbed out of his 460 Pennzoil dragster after round one, he had a big smile on his face. But when they got the car back to the pit, crew chief Dan Olson was not smiling. That's because you had a minor problem.
Yeah, we heard a name bearing on that run, but it does happen. We got to run the motors this hard.
So then what do you do?
Well, we just put a new bullet in.
Sounds pretty easy. I think it's only fair I should let you know what you're up against. Alan Johnson's got his daughter Melanie over there. Could be double trouble.
I got my grandson over here helping me.
Uh-oh, double trouble times two. Not the Eddie and Gary show, not the Alan and Dan show. It's Melanie and Logan in round two, Steve.
In drag racing parlance, that is known as a dead soldier. A broken motor in the pits of Doug Coletta. Put a connecting rod out, punched a hole in the side of the block. They got a new motor going in, but Ed McCullough, you really don't know why it broke, and that's frustrating.
Well, we looked at the computer. I mean, you came in and took a look. I mean, all the cylinders were lit. Usually it tells you what happened, but everything looks good. We're okay. We're going to put another one in and go with it.
Well, like they say, if it ain't broke, but actually it is broke. Dave Reef?
Steve, the biggest surprise in round number one isn't the fact that Corey McLenathan won. It's how he did it. 471, not a very good run. And that big ball of fire, let me guess, it had to be something big like throwing rods or blower, but no.
Actually, that's what we thought from the starting line. When we got down there, it cracked the valve cover, and that's where all the oil came from, and that's where the fire came from. But no, it looks like the engine's okay, and we can tune it up to race Doug Coletta in the next round.
That's exactly what you're going to have to do there. 61, not going to have lane choice.
Right, and they ran in the other lane that we didn't, so looks like we'll probably both stay in our same lanes, and we like the right lane, and I think we can tune up and give them a good race.
The racing season is coming to a close, and that means lots of breaking news from the world of motorsports. Get all the up-to-the-minute highlights, interviews, and more on Race Day. Coming your way every Sunday morning at 11 Eastern, right here on TNN Motorsports. Another little did you know fact, but I believe all of those folks know the answer, except for the guy in the hat there. 6 drivers have been in both the Top Fuel and Funny Car Big Bud Shootouts. Only one of those guys, however, won them both, and that would be Kenny Bernstein. Won the Funny Car in a Ford Tempo, believe it or not. As the sun slowly sets in the west, don't help me. Beautiful shot out here at Pomona Raceway. We are going to bring you the finals of the Big Bud Shootout, but earlier today we had the semifinals. Scelzi, Hill, Coletta, Corey. Let's find out who advanced. Shelley, tell me about the conditions right now the drivers face. It looks really bright out there. Does the sun affect these guys?
Right now, this is a hard track to race at. The sun is blinding here right now. It's right behind the tree. They're both having problems. You can tell they're playing with their visors. Once they pre-stage the car, I don't think they're ever going to think about it again.
Dave Reef, what's the starting line looking like down there with all these changing conditions?
Well, obviously, both crew chiefs are very nervous, respectful, so to speak, of the racetrack, and it's something that's got Mike Green very concerned. They're probably as nervous and as unsure about their race cars they've been in quite some time. They're going to try to back it down. A mid-60s, probably what we're looking for out of the winner. Doug Coletta, always ready to go, Steve.
Doug Coletta has the better car today. I think even Corey Mack would admit to that. But remember, he is a rookie. Corey Mack has been to the finals of this event 3 times. Don't be surprised if Corey Mack doesn't win this or at least make it close on a hole shot.
You're shaking your head.
No, Doug's a good leaver. I think Doug will be right there, maybe ahead.
All right, as I stand between Steve Evans and Shelley here, we'll watch this race. Doug Coletta is going to the finals with a spectacular 457, 320 miles an hour. Corey goes 464, 300 miles an hour. And Kid, you were right on. He was first out of the gate, never looked back. This is a hot race car.
I'll tell you, this is an awesome race car, a great driver. Nothing bothers him. He's been in a race car all of his life. Now he's just drag racing. Car ran great. Ed McCullough told me he'd run a high 450, and look at that, it did. I wish it was always that easy.
Corey in the lane next to him running a 64, nothing to be ashamed about, but he is beaten by 2 car lengths. Steve?
I bow to you, Shelley Anderson. Just trying to make it interesting, gang. Doug Coletta, man, what a pass. A brilliant save yesterday in a wheel stand situation. Now he's first out of the gate and first to the finish line at 457.
All right. What a nice run, I tell you. American National Kit car, you know, the guys are really doing a nice job tuning it. We're just real happy that this thing's running good out here.
And they're very happy with your performance. There's Corey Mack in to say, good job.
All right. Good.
As Shelley said, Coletta just seems so nonplussed by everything. Cool under fire. We're going to find out who he faces in the finals when we come back. Here on TNN, which I do believe stands for Total Nitro Network. Let me check with the executives. Yeah, that'd be right. Coletta's thrown down something for these guys to shoot out. 457 will get you lane choice. I'm going to say something that I don't think you've heard in a long while. I believe Eddie Hill is favored in this round over Team Winston and Gary Scelzi based on what I've seen so far this weekend. What do you think, Steve?
Well, Bob, I don't know. It's a great race for the fans because Eddie Hill is everybody's hero. Thousands of people from Central California rooting on the Fresno Flash, Gary Scelzi. And to tell you the truth, I think they're riding with the right car. Dave Reef?
Well, I got to be honest, I think Gary Scelzi may be the favorite here, simply based on the fact that Alan Johnson has what he calls his Memphis tune-up in the car. Basically what that means is they are going to try to get a little more aggressive on the starting line and a little softer in the middle of the racetrack. How did that setup do in Memphis? Well, they lost on a hole shot, but they did run a 4:59. That's just what Alan Johnson is gunning for once again here.
Shelley, the guys in the field like the red car. You and I both kind of like this car.
I think Eddie Hill's the car to beat right now. He had low ET the first round. The car's really running good. It ran good at the last national event, and Scelzi blew up a motor. So I kind of think Eddie Hill's the only car returning with the same motor from the first round, and I think Eddie's going to do it.
Well, I don't want to gloat, boys. 463 for Eddie Hill, 313. Gary Scelzi never had a shot. Went out about 60 feet and struck the tires, and this baby was over.
Yeah, I think the Memphis tune-up really hurt him here because I don't think the track is going to take it at the initial hit. I think you need to give it more out, and I think Eddie Hill kind of likes that Memphis tune-up about right now.
Hey, it ain't Memphis, but it might be Heartbreak Hotel for Team Winston. Eddie Hill in the Pennzoil Matco car gets the win, goes to the finals to take on Doug Coletta, the rookie, against the veteran in the finals of the Big Bud Shootout.
And this will be Eddie Hill's second appearance in the Big Bud Shootout. He hopes for a better result in '98 than he had a few years ago. Wow, that was just beautiful.
Oh, man, that felt so good. It felt so good. Thanks, boss. We needed that. I don't know what it was, but it felt plenty good. And the main thing was the wind light down at the end. But we're having a great time.
Not quite good enough for lane choice, but everybody says that doesn't matter.
It doesn't seem to matter here.
It might not matter. The guy that doesn't have lane choice usually says it doesn't matter. Doug Coletta's got a 457, a couple of hundreds in the bank against Eddie. The finals, the Big Bud Shootout, coming up next on TNN. This was a little while ago. Shelley Anderson on board in qualifying. Wow, spectacular. Shelley, you didn't qualify. You gave us some great camera shots there and everything, and you got to still have your ears ringing from that.
Definitely, but I'd rather have qualified. You know, last race of the year, and we didn't have a good year, but maybe next year.
Hey, but you've done so good on calling these races so far here in the Big Bud Shootout. Who do you like going into this final round?
Well, Doug Coletta paid me money, and Eddie Hill paid me money to pick them. I think they think I'm like the good luck person. I think it's going to be a great race. Track's not going to be a factor. Both lanes are great. Sun's down, and it's going to be a great run. I think it's going to be a mid-450 to winner.
Well, you're new at this, and you don't know any money you get. You got to share with the play-by-play guy, and that'd be me. So we'll work that out. Okay. Right after the burnouts, we'll get a chance to hear from Steve Evans and David Reif on how they think this final is going to go. Lane choice to Coletta and the American International Kitty Hawk machine under the tutelage of Ed the Ace McCullen. The near lane, here comes the Pennzoil car. Finals, the shootout coming up. Steve, who do you like?
After the drubbing I took in the semifinal from that blonde girl, I am out of the predicting business. But I will tell you that Eddie Hill has had his funding cut dramatically for next year. It could really use the $100 grand. On the other hand, Connie Coletta has a new car being built for Doug and a 40,000 square foot shop to put it in Ann Arbor. So you decide where you think the money ought to go. Dave Reif?
Well, Steve, I'll step out on a line. I think this clearly favors Doug Coletta. They've had the better hot rod all day. And in a race that could certainly come down to reaction time, that's a favor Doug Coletta as well. Interestingly enough, we've been talking all day about how anybody can win this race. We've got the number 5 and the number 7 qualified cars. It just goes to show you anything can happen here.
Shelley, besides the obvious thing, the $100,000, how much of this is pride and bragging rights? I mean, how much do the teams want to show everybody else they're the baddest dudes here?
I think this is the hardest race to win all year. 8 quickest cars of the year run. This is the race everybody wants to win. I mean, it takes a lot just to qualify for it. It's an honor.
Yep. You should know. You whooped them all back in '94. Finals for 100 large here in Pomona. Doug Coletta has been brilliant all day. He was brilliant here. 4:39, dynamite off the line. 4.59 the elapsed time, 3:13 the speed. Hey, Eddie Hill, no slouch, 4:62, but not good enough today.
They both drove great. They both had great reaction times, and you know something? They're both winners in my book. And one of these cars might be in the final tomorrow.
Look at this. Neither one of them really missed a beat, Shelley.
No, they sure did. And these are two exceptional cars. They were the cars to beat today. And I think now, Sells, even though he's qualified #1 for tomorrow, they're going to be looking at these two cars.
Look at that, a photo suitable for framing. And back on the starting line, the crowd goes wild. Well, the Coletta guys do. Sensational win for the rookie, Steve Evans.
Oh, thank you very much, Bob Fry. Doug Coletta, certainly the biggest day in his very brief drag racing career. Steve Winkler is down here, the brand manager for Budweiser. Come on in here, Steve. We'll get that hat off, and you can give him the trophy that symbolizes, and the check, $100,000, and an absolutely back-breaking performance. Another 450.
Congratulations. On behalf of Budweiser, we're proud to present you with the 1998 Big Bud Shootout.
Okay.
As close to a perfect day as you could ask for.
Yeah, thank you very much, Budweiser. And I know they do a lot for the sport, and we really appreciate all you do. And just happy to come out here and get the beer and get the money and press on for tomorrow. So just like to thank American International Kitty Hawk. That makes it, part of getting out here in County Coletta for giving me opportunity out here. So.
And if you can win tomorrow, there's a big bonus for doubling up, right, Dave Reef?
Oh, a huge bonus, and Ed McCulloch and the gang is all ready to go for it. Sensational performances all day long. You told me you wanted to go out there and kick a little booty, and you did just that.
Well, it was a great drag race. I mean, a 59 to a 62. I mean, what more could you get for your money out here today? But